assuming, so I'm just gonna get into a ship conversation. I'm assuming that all the three big ships that were in the finale with Betty and Archie getting engaged, Tabitha and Jughead spending their entire life together in Pops, which by the way, beautiful
Oh
sequence,
my
like
It was
goodness.
cute. It was really cute.
absolutely
Amazing.
gorgeous. And then the road back to Choni was built between like they felt what their ancestors were doing that night. They're like, I don't remember things. Like, you clearly remember something that happened.
Right.
And then of course the flashes back to Tony when Cheryl was stopping the comet. So we're going back there. Roberta did say that he talked a lot about Choni and a lot about Moose and Kevin because they are going to navigate actual 50s issues for the LGBTQ characters. And he didn't bring up race, but I'm assuming it's going to be there because you have, is it 2 interracial relationships? Yes, if you count Choni. If they're doing the road back to Choni, then yes. I don't know where that places Fangs though. Not that the show cares that much about Fangs and Tony because it's not that well built, and they keep having her be Cheryl's soulmate. So I assume somewhere in the 50s timeline we'll deal with the Fangs issue. Perhaps he'll still be baby Anthony's father, and then we'll circle back to Choni. The Bughead of it all, though, I do need my Barchies to brace, not necessarily for an endgame, but because besides the comics, when Percival's going into Jughead's mindscape, there's a giant picture of Betty, high school Betty, right on the wall. You can see Tabitha on the left side, but she's kind of blurry, but you can see Betty. She's in full focus. So I was like, oh no, they did this twice, which means it's definitely coming back in the high school era. That might be Jughead learning to move forward, but they also had Tabitha standing there when Ethel was berating Riverdale Jughead for calling Betty because he's still in love with Betty. And Tabitha and Jughead didn't talk about it. And I was like, that's strike number 3. We're going back in the final season. They're doing it.
I could see some tug of war, definitely.
Yes.
But it has to be Barchie, right? Because they're like engaged. And wasn't it always in like when he was imagining his life? Wasn't it always Betty? Didn't he have like a memory of his wedding or something? Or like he saw his wedding? Was it Betty?
That was Veronica.
Oh,
that's why the Barchies were upset about his line in the Riverdale event where he said, my dad would be so happy to know that I'm marrying you, Betty. And they were like, your dad was in the dream with you when you were marrying Veronica, but now all of a sudden it was Betty. And I was like, that was season 1 though. And they like to move away from things, but I think we're in some capacity going back to Bughead, even if it's just a little bit, or if it's just Jughead dealing with his own feelings.
It's really funny that you should say that, because remember my comment way back when we were all much younger, and when I said that Barchie happened in the 3rd quarter, and usually when that happens, there's a switch or there's a pivot back in the 4th quarter, and now we can confirm that this is the 4th quarter of Riverdale. We're about to head into the final chapter. So yes, I do agree that before the story ends, we will see Bughead tied up once and for all, whether that means endgame or whether that just means a moment of weakness. But then when the Jabitha moment happened in the finale, I was like, there's no way they can move away from this, right? Well, I mean, like now they've pulled the Barry Allen and completely reset the timeline, so they can move away from it if they want. But like, the board is wiped clean now. The slate is wiped clean. They can do whatever they want and come up with a logical way of explaining it. But it's interesting. I didn't peg the Betty poster. I didn't see that. So I don't know. As a fan of basically everything Riverdale does as far as couples goes, I get convinced one way or another. So I'm excited to see what direction they go. I don't think they can wrap it up without at least dealing with Bughead once more, especially since Jughead had that moment where he remembered all those feelings and needed Tabitha to come home so that he could cleanse his mind off them. But I feel like the board's wide clean and it's wide open now to go anywhere. I'd be excited to see more Bughead, because at the end of the day, we're going back to high school. It's back to the beginning. You can't go back to the beginning without dealing with that. But I also have no idea how it's going to end now, because I can't see past that Jughead and Tabitha moment in the finale.
It gave endgame. Like it just, or like if they go back to their regular timeline, how do you not talk about that if you end up back with Betty? Like I just don't. you would feel like his motivation is to get back with Tabitha since they spent their whole life together. I mean, we saw the babies, and then like it was very adorable. So I think they do have to at least pay attention to their ships, even with the board being wiped clean, especially because earlier. By the way, I remember all ship things just because I'm so invested. But in the episode in which Betty is like, "I'm basically Kane," and Polly was looking at her like she had lost her mind when she tells her to forgive herself for the kiss and for falling out of love with Jughead because it happens. And I was like, "Oh, that's lovely." I do think Betty's out of love with Jughead. I don't think Jughead's all the way out of love with Betty. I do think he really, really loves Tabitha, though. Like, I don't want to disrespect the Tabitha and Jughead relationship at all. I just don't think he's let go of that first love the way he needs to.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know if I care. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know. Do I need to see them get closure? I mean, maybe, but I'm like, it feels like everyone's moved on except for Veronica a little bit, which is like curious to me because it's like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it would be so much easier to follow. I agree with everything Sabrina said, but I feel like we had to talk about it before we reached that point. This show does not make it easy to follow storylines because of the way it consistently pockets characters off in different groups when it's done with them. So like Veronica can go for 10 weeks without thinking about Archie, and then suddenly she can't think about anything but Archie because that's what the story dictates. And now all of a sudden she went from feeling alone to singing that excellent number and insulting all the couples, that incredible meltdown moment. Now, like 3 weeks later, and suddenly she's like, "Yes, I can get you a ring for Betty, Archie. Let me go find it."
No, but didn't she like roll her eyes?
Her face was like, "I can't believe this man asked
she
me
wasn't.
this, so let's go get
She
this
wasn't
ring."
thrilled.
No, I know that, but I don't feel it's fair for Archie to ask her, considering the fact that he knows how she felt. If you know what I mean, he saw that meltdown happen. And
well, Archie, I mean, he's not the brightest bulb in the the tanning bed.
As Reggie told him as he was stabbing him. It's like, "You're not that smart." And I was like, I mean, don't do that to Archie, but he should have known something was wrong.
I mean, that's my man. I'll say it first. Archie's not the brightest. I mean, he's smart like in some other ways, but his focus isn't always there. He sees he gets blinders on.
He's like, "This is a good thing."
Yeah, I don't think he can tell that Veronica's feeling some kind of way.
No, and she should be allowed to, because I just remember when they were standing in front of the fire truck and she asked him point blank, "Is there anything left between you and Betty?" And he was like, "No." And but it took him a second, and I was like, "There is," and she's gonna be so mad when she finds out that there's still something there. And now they're engaged.
Yeah, in that moment, he was speaking his truth, I guess. Archie's like the wind, whichever way it blows.
Oh, there is one Barchie moment I want though in the 50s thing, which is so like, I'm not even a Barchie fan, but if we're going to do homages to the first season, I do want the first time he sees her is to be when he and Betty are in the diner, but they play a 50s song and she comes through down the aisle in whatever 50s attire she's in, and they play some really nice song. I want that. Like, everyone deserves to see that.
Wasn't she wearing a cape the first time?
Yes. Oh, I miss season 1.